For this lesson, we're doing Module 5, Lesson 5. We're going to start with our first question on the front page. It starts with Part C, and we have 4 rows we are being asked to make. So the first thing we want to look at in this fraction is what is the original fraction? What are we starting with? So if I look and count, I can see how many pieces it has already been broken into. That will give me my denominator, which is my bottom number. So to begin with, I count 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 for a denominator, and now I want to know how many are already shaded to start. 1. So I'm showing the fraction 1/3 right now. Not hard at all, very easy start. We are being asked to break it up into 4 rows. So now what we're going to do is break this up into 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, and 4. My suggestion for you would be to do actually the opposite of what I did. Split that middle row first, and then you can split the other one to give you even pieces. So now the question we kind of have to ask ourselves is, how many pieces do I have now? So we're actually going to cheat a little bit and write our shaded part first, which will be our numerator. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have 4 shaded. Now I'm going to count to find my total pieces. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This will give me my denominator. So I now have 4 out of 12 shaded, which is equal to 1/3 from our original fraction. We're going to prove it with multiplication in a minute. If you wanted to think about what my denominator would be, when I started with 3 rows, I made 4 more rows, so I could think about multiplying also to get there to help me. If you were wondering how I got 12 for that denominator. So next I have 1/3 times, and we're going to prove it using multiplication, 4 over 12. So we need to ask ourselves, 1 times what equals 4? Well, the answer is 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. Our rule from our previous lesson was whatever we do to the bottom or the top number, we must do the same to the opposite. So if we use 4 on the top, we need to use a 4 on the bottom if this is true. 3 times 4 equals 12, so it works. So going back to our original, 1/3 is equal to 4/12. Now for the next one, we have 2 problems. We're going to start over here on D. For this one, we don't have a tape diagram drawn for us. We're just going to go ahead and prove that these are indeed equal. So we're going to start with 1/3 times some number with the top and the bottom is going to equal 2/6. Now I need to ask myself, 1 times what equals 2? The answer is 2. Very easy math fact. If I put a 2 on the top, knowing our rule, whatever we do the top, we must do the bottom. I write a 2 on the bottom. 3 times 2 equals 6, so it indeed works. So we have proven that 1/3 is equal to 2/6. Now for question 3, it says explain why 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12 is the same as 1/4. So the first thing we're going to do for this question is we are going to add all these 12ths up. So we're going to do 1/12 plus 1/12 plus 1/12. Now, this is going to be some addition review from our lessons 1 and 2 with fractions. When we add fractions, we remember we have to have the same denominator. I have a 12 all the way across the bottom, so I'm all set. So I keep that same denominator. When I add my numerators and fractions, I add like I would with any other number. So I have 1 plus 1, which equals 2. 2 plus 1 equals 3. So I now have 3/12. So now I need to prove that 3/12 is equal to 1/4. To do that, I can use multiplication like I have in the previous lessons. So I'm going to do 1/4 times some number equals 3/12. If 1/4 is equal to 3/12, I should be able to multiply some number by the top and the bottom that must be the same to get me to 3/12. Well, now I start by asking myself the easy math fact. 1 times what equals 3? The answer is 3. Remember our rule we just learned, whatever we do the top, we must do the bottom. So 4 times 3, notice I have a 3 on the top, my numerator, and the 3 on the bottom, the denominator. 4 times 3 is 12. So does it work? It does, because 1 times 3 is 3. Just put an arrow so you know. 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12, so it works. So 3/12 is equal to 1/4. When it says explain why, we've just explained with numbers, so we're all set. Big things to take away from this lesson. Whenever you are multiplying to try to prove that 2 fractions are equivalent, we've talked about this word in the past lesson. Equivalent, again, is equal. We can multiply the same number by the top and the bottom, the same numerator and denominator, that will get us there. If we have to change that number, then it is actually not equal. But for right now, we'll be starting with all equal fractions.